Hey everyone, welcome back, and let's write some more neat code today. So today let's solve the problem, sum of all subset XOR totals. So this is an easy problem, but there is a solution to this problem that is pretty damn hard, I would say. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you the probably intended solution that makes this an easy problem. It's not going to be like the most efficient, it's going to be exponential. And I'm also going to show you an optimal solution, which I will warn you is pretty mathematical. And I'll even admit to you that I actually wasn't able to come up with it by myself. I didn't know that an efficient solution actually existed for this problem until I skimmed the editorial. But I recognize that that editorial is pretty difficult to read. So if I can make it any easier for you to understand, I'm happy to do so. But let's get started with this problem. Kind of like yesterday's problem, it's all about the XOR binary operation. Basically, we're given an array of elements. I'll take the second example. It's a bit more interesting. 5, 1, 6. We want every single subset of these elements. Now, remember, subset is not the same as a subarray. If we were only talking about subarrays, then we'd have roughly n squared subarrays. But with subsets, the idea is different. We'll have about 2 to the power of n. And the reason for that is with a subset, we have a choice for every single element. We can either choose to include it or not include it. So if I just wanted to show you what every single subset from this looked like, I would do this. I'd say, okay, first time we include 5, and we can also skip 5. And then we can include 1, and then we can skip 1. We can include 6, we can skip 6 over here, and we can include 6 here, and of course skip it. Same thing over here. I'll just quickly draw it out. Here we're at the second choice. We can either include 1, skip 1. Here we can either include 6, skip 6, and same exact decision down here. Now, if you take any one of these root to leaf paths, you will have a different subset. Even though the input elements could be duplicates, so like even though like 2 sets might have the exact same values, they're still technically different subsets. So if you count all of these, you're going to see we have, I think, 8, right? So the reason for that is we branch by 2 every single time. If you look at the height of this decision tree that I have, it's a height of 3. Therefore, we're going to get 2 to the power of 3. That's going to be 8. There's 8 different subsets that we can form. And if you look at one of them, it's an interesting one over here where we literally didn't include any element. So that actually does technically count as a subset. So that subset, in the context of this problem, which I guess I should talk about, for every single one of these subsets, we want to take all the elements and XOR them together, and then we'll get a result. So if we were to XOR, I think these 3 together, we'd get something like this. Well, actually, let me start with the other one. If we were to XOR nothing together, like there's no elements to begin with, then obviously that's going to be 0. This one over here, where we have nothing but a single 6, the 6 by itself is just going to be 6, right? This one over here, 6 and 1, if we were to XOR 6 and 1 together, what would we get? Well, in the binary representation, 1 looks like this, 6 I think looks like this. So if we XOR them together, I think we actually get 7. So for each of those, we're going to end up adding all of them up, and that's the result that we're trying to return. So for any given subset, XOR all the values, and then for that, get that total, and then add all those totals up. So we'll have 8 numbers. One of them is definitely going to be 0, and then we'll add all of them up, and that's what we're trying to return. So obviously, the brute force solution of this is recursive, and time complexity is going to be 2 to the power of n. To implement it in terms of code, obviously, we have to keep track of which position we're at in the input array. I'll use a parameter I for that. In terms of implementation, there are different ways that you can do it, but I think the easiest way definitely is to just keep track of the total of like the XOR values as we go. So like by the time we're here, the total is obviously 5. When we're here, we have nothing. The total is initially 0. When we're here, we are going to take the original total 5 and XOR it with 1, and then we'll have a new total, and then we'll kind of keep track of that total. And then by the time here we get to the base case, we'll know we're at the base case because we're at the end of the array, and then we can just return that total. And obviously, we're going to have 2 recursive calls because we're branching in two different directions. So I'm going to go ahead and code this one up first. So I like to have a little recursive function. I'm going to call it DFS. And like I said, we're going to have two parameters, I and just keeping track of the total. As you can imagine, the way we're going to call this DFS is starting at index 0 and having our total initially be 0. And then we're going to return the result of this. And we expect this to compute the total. So here, what I'm going to do is say, first of all, the base case you can imagine is going to be what I said. If I is the end, then let's just go ahead and return the total. Otherwise, we have two choices. I want to be very explicit with what we're doing here. We have one choice, include nums of I. In other words, we are going to make a recursive call. We're going to say DFS, go to index I plus 1. That's simple enough. Like, we're going to do that regardless. But what's the total going to be? If we include this number, our new total is going to be total XORed with the number, nums of I. That's simple enough, but be very clear with what this function is actually doing. What this function is doing is it's returning the total of all subsets, including this number, every single subset. Because recursively, we're going to make that decision that I'm about to show you. We have the decision to include this number. We have the decision to not include nums of I. And that would look pretty similar. Let's go ahead and fix this. It'd be very similar. I'm sure you can modify it. It's just going to be removing this part of the code. So this is going to be returning the sum of all subsets that do include this number. This is going to be returning the sum of all subsets that don't include that number. And what we want to do is just total these two up and then return the result. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm just going to, I guess, get rid of the comments now and just add these up in the same line, because you probably can see what each of these means. Let's go ahead and run this. As you can see on the left, it works, and supposedly it's pretty efficient, but there is a much more efficient solution to this problem that I'm about to show you right now. So I would buckle up, because this is going to be a fun one, at least for me, because you guys know how much I love math, and I know how much you guys don't like math, at least most of you. So this is mainly, I just want to say, combinatorics. It's kind of a branch of like discrete maths. It's like related to statistics and stuff like that. And it's also somewhat related to binary, obviously. The idea here is, obviously, we know for each of these numbers, like, we're going to have 2 to the power of 3 subsets. So let's just continue with this example because it's small. So I'm just going to kind of draw like 4 little boxes here. These are going to be each of the subsets. We know that we can either include this or not include it. So half the subsets are going to include 5. Let's say that this row includes 5, and then this row does not include 5. So I'll just put a little red X here. You can suppose like 1 is included in half of them somewhere. They're just not like going to be nicely organized as these. So these have 5 included. These ones do not. Okay. I've also just gone ahead and shown you the binary representation of each of these. That's going to make our lives a little bit more easy. So suppose we just take 5 by itself, because we know 5 by itself is technically a subset as well. Let's take a look at it. There's a 0 here, there's a 1 here, there's a 0 here, and there's a 1 here. Now, there's going to be a bunch of leading zeros here. None of those are ever going to change, right? Because with XOR, we're never going to be adding a 1 somewhere where it doesn't exist. So now we're trying to look at an individual subset, and we're trying to really understand what an individual subset could possibly look like. We know for sure none of the subsets are going to have a 1-bit over here. I mean, we know that with 100% certainty, don't we? I think it's obvious why, because for us to have 1 as the result of an XOR operation, there has to be a 1 in the first place, right? And consider the other positions, like the other columns here. If there's a 1 in any of these rows, there's 100% going to be at least one subset where a 1 shows up. Because remember, we can take an individual element and just consider it as a subset. So even if we had 3 1s here, we'd have a subset. Even if I got rid of this element and there's 2 1s here, even though 1 XORed with 1 ends up as 0, well, we can still at least take this as an individual subset and this as an individual subset. So Now I'm going to start looking at each of these positions, each of these 4 positions, and I've gone ahead and just moved that over there. Now I want to ask, among our 2 to the power of 3 subsets, how many of them are going to have a 1-bit set over here? Obviously 0 for reasons we just discussed. Now I'm actually going to go to this column because this one is a simple case. 2 to the power of 3, how many of these 8 subsets are gonna have a 1-bit over here? You try to answer that question. Seriously, just look at this column. There's 2 zeros and there's a 1 here. This number is 6. We know 6 is gonna be included in half the subsets, and half the subsets are not gonna include 6. If 6 is included in a subset, regardless of which of the other elements are included, isn't it true that this 1 bit is always going to be set? Because 1 XORed with 0 is always going to be 1. You can do it 100 times, it's still going to be 1. So what I'm getting at is when there's only a single bit set in like a column, then half of the subsets, in other words, 2 to the power of 3 minus 1, half of the subsets are going to have this bit set. Okay, now is the part where it's going to get really interesting, and that is this. Suppose I have half the subsets where they look like this, where this bit is set, and I have half the subsets where this bit is not set. So I'm going to be focusing on this bit. So let's just draw a 0 and a 1. Half of them are 0, half of them are 1. Now suppose I introduced here a new value. I introduce very intentionally this value 0, 0, and a 0 over here, but here I'm putting a 1. Suppose I did that. So obviously we have taken our subsets and doubled them, right? We've multiplied it by 2 because now this subset is going to be included in half and not included in half of them. Okay, so we know originally our ratio of 0 to 1s in this bit was 50-50, right? So now I'm going to take this new value and I'm going to XOR it with everything we have. If I take this 1 and I XOR it with a 0, because remember, half those subsets are going to have a 0 here. If I XOR 1 with 0, what do I get? I flip it, of course, right? I flip it and it turns into a 1. Now I take this and I XOR it with the other half of those subsets that we had. So obviously in this particular position, it's going to be 1 XORed with 1. What does that result in? It results in a 0. It gets flipped. So the ratio, what I'm getting at, is going to stay 50-50 because half of them had a 0 in this spot. If I XOR 1 with 0, it turns into 1. And half of them had a 1 in this spot. If I XOR 1 with 1, I get 0. So it looks to me like if we have 2 1s in a particular column, we still have half the subsets where this bit is going to be set and half the subsets where they're not going to be set. And obviously, if I introduce another one, if I had 3 1s here, then I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to set all of them that have a 0 to be a 1 and all of them that have a 1 to be a 0. So in other words, if there is a bit set in any column, half of the total set of subsets is going to include a 1. Now I'm going to get very, very concrete and go through this example by hand, and there won't be a single doubt in your mind why the solution I'm about to show you is going to work. So what we've learned is that this column, of course, half of the subsets are going to be a 1. And obviously we know that since there's a 1 set somewhere in this column, half of the subsets are going to be 1 here as well, 2 to the power of 3 minus 1, same thing over here. So if half of the subsets have a 1 in this spot, then isn't it fair to say that this value is going to be multiplied by the value below it? Like this here alone, like this by itself, just kind of ignoring these two for a second, this by itself is the value 4. Like that's what this bit represents. And it shows up 2 to the power of 3 minus 1 times. In other words, it shows up 2 to the power of 2, which is 4. It shows up 4 times. This bit is going to show up 4 times among these 8 subsets. So we can say this, which is the number 4, multiplied by 4. What about this? Well, it represents the number 2. That bit is going to show up 4 times. So we take 2 times 4. And same thing over here. This represents 1. It shows up 4 times. 4 different subsets are going to include that value. So we're going to say 1 times 4. So now we can just total these up. We're not obviously looking at each individual subset and looking at what that number represents. We're just saying that this bit is going to show up, however many times, and we're adding it up that many times. So if we were to total each of these up, it's going to be 16, 8, and 4. If you add all those up, I think you get something like 24. But obviously you can see that here, a good way to simplify this would actually be to take the number itself. Like we have 4, 2, and 1. Why not just take that number, the sum of that 7, which is what like this represents, and multiply that by 2 to the power of 3 minus 1, which is of course 4, which is of course 28. Now, if this doesn't make sense, let me just quickly draw 8 random subsets that don't necessarily match the result of this, but they're consistent with what I said down here. So what I'm saying is that there's going to be 8 rows, and half of them are going to have this 1-bit set. So let's just assume it looks like this. So I'm going to put it like that. I'm also going to say that half of them are going to have this bit set. It could be overlapping with this or not. So let's say 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1. And I guess since we put all zeros here, we have to put these ones up here. So let's just put those 4 ones here and then zeros here. So this is consistent with the logic over here, even though these are definitely not the 8 subsets that are going to be generated by this, but the sum of these is still going to be 28. Because to total these 8 subsets up is literally just taking this, which is 2 times 4, taking this, which is 4 times 4, taking this, which is 4 times 1. Okay, now let's finally get into the solution. How does all of this help us? Well, all we have to do is find which bits are actually set in at least one of the numbers, and then we can take that, kind of what I drawn here, take this and then multiply it by 2 to the power of 3 minus 1, or you could also say left shift it by n minus 1, where n is the number of values that we had, which in this problem was 3, because these are the 3 numbers. Now, how exactly do we find these? Like, how do we know which bits are actually set? You could obviously just, loop over each number. The easiest way, though, is just to logic or bitwise or these numbers together, because we just want to know that it shows up in at least one of the numbers. So if we take every single input number, or it together, we will get this. And then this itself will be multiplied by 2 to the power of n minus 1, or you could shift it to the left by n minus 1. Obviously, the time complexity of this is just going to be big O of n, as you'll see in a second. Okay, so all that work to code up a very simple solution, actually. So we'll say this is our result so far, and the first phase is just going to be going through every number and ORing it together. So result is going to be ORed with that number. So now we have all the bits that happen to be set. With those bits, we just want to say multiply them by 2 to the power of length of nums minus 1. I don't think I need these outer parentheses. And for what it's worth, this is equivalent to this shifted to the left by length of nums minus 1. I think here we would probably need parentheses. I just think that this is slightly more confusing because I think multiplication kind of really does explain exactly what's going on. So I'll go ahead and run it. As you can see on the left, it works, and I guess it is a bit more efficient. If you're preparing for coding interviews, check out Leetcode.io. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.